This is Community Radio Networks. It is Friday, the 24th of May today, wishing you all a lovely day. And here we have all the information that you need to take on the day today. We'll start with the world news. This is Community Radio Networks, the world news, read by Shabnam Madgil. The International Court of Justice is due to rule today on South Africa's demand for further legal action against Israel to prevent genocide against the Palestinians. In particular, the ruling concerns the possible ordering of an immediate withdrawal of the Israeli military from Rafah in the south of the Gaza Strip. South Africa submitted an urgent application to this effect to the International Court of Justice on the 10th of this month. The UN Security Council is also scheduled to vote on a resolution that strongly condemns attacks on humanitarian workers and UN personnel and demands that all combatants protect them in accordance with international law. ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan has defended seeking arrest warrants for Israeli leaders. In an interview, he revealed how hothead mature American leaders threatened him over arrest warrants. Karim Khan further made it clear that the International Criminal Court will go ahead with the warrant. The Israeli military, meanwhile, said this morning it had recovered the bodies of 3 hostages taken into the Gaza Strip after they were killed during the October 7th attack by Hamas-led militants. The bodies of Hanan Yablonka, Michelle Mazenbaum and Orion Hernandez Rado were recovered overnight in a joint operation by the army and the intelligence services in Jabalia in northern Gaza, where there has been intense fighting in recent days. Israeli forces have killed at least 60 Palestinians in aerial and ground bombardments across the Gaza Strip in a day and battled in close combat with Hamas-led fighters in areas of the southern city of Rafah. The health ministry in Gaza said that at least 35,800 people have been killed in the territory during more than 7 months of bombardment between Israel and Palestinian fighters. 2 days after Spain announced its intention to recognize an independent state of Palestine, Israel has imposed restrictions on the work of Spanish diplomats in the country. The Spanish embassy in Tel Aviv and the Spanish consulate general in East Jerusalem will in future be prohibited from offering their services to Palestinians from the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz has described and decided to severe connection between Spain's diplomatic mission and Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. And British police said they had arrested 16 people on suspicion of aggravated trespass at the University of Oxford after pro-Palestinian protesters held a sit-in at the university city chancellor's office. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said Canada is prepared to recognize the state of Palestine at the right time, not necessarily as the last step along the path. And the UN has resumed transporting humanitarian aid arriving at a US-built pier off the coast of the Gaza Strip after deliveries were halted for 2 days because some truckloads of aid were intercepted by needy Palestinians. President Biden, meanwhile, welcomed Kenyan President William Ruto to the White House yesterday for a state visit, pledging new partnerships on technology, security, and debt relief to the leader of one of Africa's strongest democracies. This was his first state visit by an African president to the White House since 2008, a gesture towards the importance of a continent that is home to 1 billion people and nurtures close trades with China, but which ranks behind the wars in Ukraine and Gaza on Washington's agenda. Last night, Ruto was the guest of honor at this lavish state dinner that drew a wide range of guests. And President Bill Clinton and former President Obama, whose father was Kenyan, made a brief appearance before the meal. The invitation list for yesterday's White House state dinner included celebrities, politicians, and allies of the president, as President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden rolled out the red carpet for the Kenyan President William Ruto and his First Lady Rochelle Ruto. We do have the visit that marks the first time an American president has hosted an African leader for a state visit since February of 2008, when President George Bush hosted the president of Ghana And this dinner last night is the 6th state dinner that President Biden has hosted since he became president. Idaho Democrats selected Joe Biden as their nominee for the White House, giving the president more delegates after he already clinched his party's 2024 nomination. The caucus was structured a bit differently than previous Democratic caucuses. Instead of listening to speeches and moving to various parts of the room to show their support for a candidate, voters were given ballots to fill out their choices. Two presidents have never debated before, and neither of these two presidents has debated anyone in almost 4 years, not since the last time they faced each other. Both President Biden and former President Trump are confident they can take the other down in next month's CNN debate. And each camp is convinced the other's diminishment from 4 years ago will be overwhelming to voters throughout 90 minutes of live TV. And both believe the debate could move the needle for that thin slice of undecided voters who don't like either candidate and are primed to oppose whoever comes across worse. But both are gearing up in different ways. Between the president's two multi-day trips scheduled for Europe to commemorate D-Day and for the annual G7 summit, and a fundraising swing to California, President Biden aides have plans for extensive prep sessions that will include a sequestered stretch possibly at Camp David. And Trump's advisors, however, insisting there have been no formal conversations about preparation for next month's debate, particularly with the candidate himself. He's facing the end of his hush money criminal trial in New York next week and waiting for a verdict, has several events and a California fundraising swing of his own that has been planned. He pledged to turn New York red during a campaign rally in the deep blue South Bronx in New York last night as he worked to court the Hispanic and black voters that make up a majority of the area's population. Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis are signaling to donors that they are putting their rivalry behind them after a contentious and often personal primary fight. DeSantis convened his allies this week in Fort Lauderdale to press them to raise money to support Trump, making the case over a seafood and steak dinner that they need to work together to prevent Democratic President Joe Biden from winning a second term. Robert F. Kennedy's Jr.'s sister says that she feels heartbroken over having to oppose her brother's presidential ambitions, but feels honor-bound to do so. "I love Bobby," she said, Kerry Kennedy. "It's heart-wrenching to be in this position." At a recent campaign event in Philadelphia, she appeared alongside other members of her family to lend their support to President Biden and argued the country could not afford another Donald Trump term. Both major tickets have signaled fear that Kennedy's insurgent campaign could play spoiler. A new measure signed into law yesterday temporarily allows Arizona abortion providers to perform the procedure in neighboring California. California's Governor Gavin Newsom enacted the law, which takes effect immediately in response to a recent Arizona Supreme Court ruling that said a near-total abortion ban from 1864 is enforceable in the state. And this law would also allow patients to receive abortion services from the Arizona healthcare providers in California through the 30th of November. The 2024 Atlantic hurricane season is expected to have above-normal activity, with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicting an 85% chance of 17 to 25 named storms, the highest number NOAA has ever forecast in its preseason outlook. Among named storms, 8 to 13 are expected to become hurricanes, with 4 to 7 major hurricanes predicted. The police officer who put world #1 golfer Scottie Scheffler in handcuffs has a lengthy disciplinary record that includes multiple suspensions, according to his employment records. Detective Brian Gillis took Scheffler into custody on the 17th of this month when the golfer sought to enter the Valhalla golf course as police investigated a nearby fatal accident. Scheffler has maintained he was following police directions on how to drive into the club, but arresting police said Scheffler did not follow the directions. Further complicating the matter, city officials said that Gillis did not activate his body-worn camera when he encountered Scheffler. The only footage so far appears to come from a squad car dashboard camera and a roadside pole, and both sets of video don't clearly show what led to Scheffler being placed in handcuffs. The United States has reissued its highest-level travel advisory for Venezuela, primarily due to civil unrest, a slide towards dictatorship, persistent terrorism threats, and anti-American sentiment. Authorities warned American citizens that their government has no ability to provide emergency services to U.S. citizens if they face any trouble while visiting Venezuela. Former U.S. Marine pilot Daniel Dugan can be extradited from Australia to face U.S. charges of training Chinese military pilots to land on aircraft carriers. The 55-year-old naturalized Australian citizen is facing U.S. charges, including money laundering and breaking arms control law by training Chinese military pilots to land on aircraft carriers. He has 15 days to seek a review of the magistrate's ruling in Sydney. Countries at the UN General Assembly voted to observe an annual day of remembrance for the Srebrenica genocide in 1995. The vote went ahead despite furious opposition from Bosnia, Serbs, and Serbia. The resolution was authored by Germany and Rwanda, which were two countries synonymous with genocide in the 20th century. As the war between Russia and Ukraine goes unabated, with Kremlin troops being relentless in their pursuit of invading Ukraine, the U.S. is poised to declare another military aid worth $275 million to the war-ravaged country, and this marks the fourth installment of military assistance for Ukraine since the passing of a long-awaited foreign aid bill by Congress last month. The U.S. has barred Ukraine from striking targets in Russian territory with its arsenal of U.S. weapons, but that may be about to change. The New York Times reported that U.S. officials were debating rolling back that rule, which Ukraine has arguably severely hampers its ability to defend itself. Moscow has warned Washington not to allow Ukraine to launch attacks with U.S. weapons on Russian territory. Russia has launched, meanwhile, a likely space weapon and deployed it in the same orbit as a U.S. government satellite, according to the Pentagon. And two glide bombs hit Kharkiv in a renewed overnight attack on the northeastern Ukrainian city, which has been the target of Russian airstrikes for months. And this nighttime Russian attack destroyed train tracks and rolling stock in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. And authorities organized the evacuation of children from the area that is being pummeled by the Kremlin's forces in a powerful new offensive. Russia today said for the first time that the Islamic State group coordinated the March Concert Hall assault in Moscow, the country's deadliest terror attack in 2 decades. It is the Islamic State has claimed responsibility on multiple occasions for that attack on the 22nd of March, which killed over 140 people, but Moscow has repeatedly tried to link Ukraine and the West to this attack. President Putin is targeting a strategic Swedish island that offers mastery over the Baltic Sea. The commander-in-chief of Sweden's army has warned this week. Sweden joined NATO in early March, and the alliance is now the dominant force in the Baltic Sea, thanks in large part to its control of Gotland. And it is said that President Putin has both eyes on Gotland. President Putin arrived in Belarus for a 2-day visit last night as part of several foreign tours to kick off his 5th term in office, underscoring close ties with a neighboring ally that has been instrumental in Russia's war effort in Ukraine. He traveled to China earlier this month and is expected in Uzbekistan on Sunday. The Russian president also hosted Bahrain's King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa at the Kremlin. President Putin's rejection of a temporary Olympic truce shows he is not ready to make peace in Ukraine, said French leader Emmanuel Macron. He and others have urged a temporary ceasefire during the Games held in Paris between the 26th of July and the 11th of August. Both Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky have rejected this idea, however, with the Russian leader protesting the Olympic ban on Russia's flag and his Ukrainian counterpart saying such a pause would only benefit Moscow on the battlefield. Fears that Russia would mount an attack on any NATO member are unfounded, said Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán today, adding that the war in Ukraine that is now in its 3rd year showed the limits of Russia's capability. In a historic move for the Catholic Church, Pope Francis has announced the canonization of Carlo Acutis, a British-born teenager who died in 2006, making him the first saint of the millennial generation. Born in London in 1991 to Italian parents, he moved to Milan in Italy, where, while still an infant, and his life through brief was marked by a profound spirituality and a passion for technology, which he used to spread the teachings of the Catholic faith. Rafael Nadal has handed a tough start to what is expected to be his farewell to the French Open, as the record 14 times champion was drawn against 4th seed Alexander Zverev in the first round, while women's champion Iga Swiatek and fellow 4-time major winner Naomi Osaka are on a 2nd-round collision course. Defending men's champion Novak Djokovic will begin his quest for a 25th Grand Slam crown against local hope Pierre Hughes Herbert in his opener. And it is Sudan's Darfur region facing a growing risk of genocide as the world's attention is focused on conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza. We do have circumstances in which a genocide could be occurring or has occurred, according to a UN Special Advisor of the Secretary General on the Prevention of Genocide. And she said many civilians were targeted based on their ethnicity in Sudan's besieged city of Al-Fashar, where fierce fighting has intensified in recent days, and more than 700 deaths have been reported in 10 days by a medical charity in the city. Al-Fashar is the last major urban center in the Darfur region that remains in the hands of the Sudan's army. Former South African President Jacob Zuma criticized the country's highest court and its former allies in the ruling African National Congress over his disqualification from next week's election and said he would fight for his rights in a disciplined way. His comments came in a video message he said was aimed at the people of South Africa and released on social media 6 days before the possibly pivotal national vote. The European Union has criticized China's large-scale maneuvers off the democratic island of Taiwan. China has started 2 days of military exercises around Taiwan, with its military calling them strong punishment for the self-ruled island's separatist acts. And the drills come 3 days after the inauguration of President William Lai, who called on China to stop threatening the island and accept the existence of its democracy. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has said his country does not have a China-phobia policy and wants to engage both Beijing and Washington, expressing hopes for both powers to resolve their differences. He's attending a Nikkei annual conference in Tokyo and said China is an important neighbor as it grows economically and militarily. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the world news on community radio networks. And a Thai town dragged by its ever-growing population of marauding wild monkeys launched an offensive against the simian raiders today using trickery and ripe tropical fruit. Several high-profile cases of monkey-human conflict recently convinced authorities in central Thailand that they had to reduce the animals' numbers. The son of Ripudaman Singh Malik, one of the men accused of having a role in the 1985 Air India bombing, has been officially warned by the National Police Service of Canada that his life could be under threat. Hardeep Malik, a businessman in Surrey, British Columbia, is the son of Ripudaman, who was acquitted in the 2005 in 2005 of that mass murder and conspiracy charges related to a pair of bombings in 1985 that killed 331 people. He was gunned down outside his office in Surrey in 2022. 2 men have since been charged with his murder. And the warning to the slain Sikh leader's son Hardeep came as investigators probe possible Indian government links to Ripudaman Singh Malik's killing. U.S. Ambassador to India Eric Garcetti today said he was working towards getting a U.S. consulate in Bengaluru in the coming year. Some of you who are from Bengaluru will know and be excited to hear yet again that during the state visit of Prime Minister Modi to the United States, he and President Biden announced that we would not open not just 1 but 2 more consulates on top of our 5 hosts in India, and one of them would be right here in Bengaluru, he said. Bibhav Kumar, a close aide and personal assistant to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, was sent to judicial custody for 4 days by a Delhi court today. And this decision was made in relation to the alleged assault on the Aam Aadmi Party Rajya Sabha MP Swati Maliwal, which took place at the Chief Minister's official residence on the 13th of this month. Parts of northern India continue to reel under a prolonged heat spell that has thrown normal life out of gear. Temperatures soared beyond 45 degrees centigrade in many states yesterday and touched 48.8 degrees centigrade in Rajasthan. India's weather department has said that the heat wave is likely to continue into next week, and several regions are facing water and electricity shortages due to spikes in power consumption. The 2024 Indian Premier League season is down to its last 2 matches, both of which will be played at the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai, with today set to witness Qualifier 2 between the Sunrisers Hyderabad and the Rajasthan Royals in humid conditions. The winner of Qualifier 2 will meet 2-time champions the Kolkata Knight Riders in the final on the 26th of this month. IPL's best power hitters Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma will face a very different challenge in wily spin twins Yuzvendra Chahal and Ravichandran Ashwin when Sunrisers Hyderabad take on the Rajasthan Royals in this high-octane second qualifier in Chennai. Pakistan cricket legend Shahid Afridi has been announced as a tournament ambassador for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024, which will be held in the West Indies and the USA. A former T20 World Cup winner and player of the tournament, he joins a distinguished group of ambassadors that includes India's Yuvraj Singh, West Indies' Chris Gayle, and the fastest man on earth, Usain Bolt. England's first warm-up against Pakistan ahead of next month's T20 World Cup was washed out after rain poured over Headingley, but captain Jos Buttler eagerly looked forward to defending the title for the side. Persistent rain saw the first 2020 international between England and Pakistan at Headingley abandoned without a ball being bowled. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif met Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and expressed condolences on the death of late President Ibrahim Raisi and his entourage in a helicopter crash. The Economic Coordination Committee of the Cabinet decided to pay $2.58 million to the families of Chinese workers slain in the Shangla attack in March this year, and also approved about 88 billion rupees in other supplementary grants to various ministries. And police and local authorities partially demolished a part of the PTI's Central Secretariat building in Islamabad before sealing the premises for allegedly violating building bylaws. The Capital Development Authority officials arrived with heavy machinery at the PTI office located in a commercial building last night. And PTI's chairman, Barrister Gohar Khan, and leader of the opposition in the National Assembly, Omar Ayub Khan, condemned this action and termed it a targeted operation against their party. The Lahore High Court today rejected 2 petitions against a notification from the Pakistan Electronic Media Regulatory Authority barring the reporting and airing of content on sub judice matters. As almost 26 districts of Pakistan swelter in the oppressive heat that has gripped the country since the 21st of this month, the Climate Change Ministry has said the first wave will last until the 30th of this month, followed by 2 more separate heat waves in June, blaming unsustainable environmental practices and deforestation for the extreme weather conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the world news for you today, but we do have some financial news that is coming up in just a minute. Stay with me right here on Community Radio Networks. Let's get you all the financial news that you need to know today. On this Friday, the 24th of May, U.S. equity futures have nudged higher this morning, while Treasury yields in the dollar held steady as investors switch focus from big tech and earnings season to the underlying inflation pressures that remain embedded in the U.S. economy. Stocks ended firmly lower yesterday as those pressures, which were underscored by a stronger than expected economic activity report from S&P Global, weighed on the chances of an autumn Federal Reserve rate cut. Set against a surprise, albeit modest, decline in weekly jobless claims data, which was also published yesterday, and traders quickly shifted focus from NVIDIA's blowout first quarter earnings to the odds of a September rate cut. NVIDIA's first quarter results beat analysts' expectations, with the revenue rising 262% to $26 billion. The company also announced a 10-for-1 stock split and that it is raising its dividend. NVIDIA stock closed at a record high of $1,038 yesterday. In less than a month, that closing price will be closer to 104. That's because alongside its blockbuster earnings report, the company announced plans to split its stock 10-for-1, meaning the existing shareholders will receive 10 shares of NVIDIA for every one they own at a price that is 10% of the market value. Regulators have a green light to the New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq to list 8 exchange-traded funds that hold Ether, but they still have not given approval to money managers that want to issue the new products. The move from the SEC is the first major step towards following the ETFs to trade. The SEC will need to approve S-1 forms from the money managers, filings needed to publicly offer new securities for the actual funds to begin trading. The Transportation Security Administration urging people planning flights over this long weekend to plan ahead. TSA expects to screen 18 million people, 6.4% more than last year, and a record for the holiday period. It is oil that has dropped to the lowest in more than 3 months today, as the market flashed signs of weakness despite expectations for OPEC to continue its output cuts. Brent crude has dipped below $81 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate declined near $76. Both benchmarks are set for a weekly loss. And the Memorial Day weekend is typically seen as the start of the peak driving period in the United States, boosting gasoline consumption, and investors will be watching to gauge the demand outlook. The Justice Department in 30 states launched an antitrust lawsuit against Live Nation yesterday in a bid to break up the country's largest concert promoter and ticket seller. The suit alleges Live Nation and its subsidiary Ticketmaster wield a monopoly to reduce competition and increase prices for customers. Live Nation and Ticketmaster merged in 2010 under a Department of Justice consent decree, and the conglomerate now controls 70% of the ticketing and live events market, manages over 400 music artists, and owns or operates over 260 concert venues. And the lawsuit alleges that Live Nation uses its stakes across these business areas to leverage fees from one area to dominate others, including by setting exclusive contracts with venues in a flywheel cycle. In response to the lawsuit, the company argued its profit margins are low and its market share is in decline. And the company had come under fire in November in 2022 after mishandling pre-sales for Taylor Swift's now historic Eras tour, when no tickets were left for general sales. The National Collegiate Athletic Association and 5 power conferences, collectively representing more than 60 schools, agreed yesterday to a $2.8 billion class action settlement, paving the way for universities to directly pay college athletes for the first time. If finalized, this plan would go into effect as soon as next year and reverse the amateur college sports model in place since 1906. It's not just Tesla and Elon Musk. Other companies also pushing pay packages higher. Tesla stockholders will have a chance on the 13th of next month to bless a $56 billion compensation deal that Musk received in 2018 that was nullified by a Delaware judge earlier this year. While his pay would be the biggest in U.S. corporate history, he is not the only head of a company testing new compensation limits. Median total CEO compensation rose 11.4% in fiscal 23 to $23.7 million. And the number of CEOs in the S&P 500 who nabbed total pay packages worth more than $50 million has also jumped in recent years. The highest paid was Broadcom boss Hock Tan, who made $162 million and exercised $767.7 million in stock options that vested when Broadcom's share price reached preset goals. And the next highest was Palo Alto Network CEO Nikesh Arora, who took in $151 million in pay and exercised $266 million in performance-based stock options. Pay for the top boss is rising at smaller companies also. Elon Musk says artificial intelligence will take all our jobs, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Probably none of us will have a job, he said about AI at a tech conference yesterday while speaking remotely via webcam to Viva Tech 2024 in Paris. He described a future where jobs would be optional. If you want to do a job that's kind of like a hobby, you can do it, he said, but otherwise AI and the robots will provide any goods and services that you want. For this scenario to work, he said, there would need to be universal high income, not to be confused with universal basic income, although he did not share what that would look like. UBI refers to the government giving a certain amount of money to everyone, regardless of how much they earn. Tesla has cut output of its best-selling Model Y electric car by a double-digit percentage number at its Shanghai plant since March, and the move is aimed at addressing weakening demand for the U.S. automaker's aged model in China, its second-largest market into which a majority of the cars produced at the Shanghai plant are sold, and where a brutal price war has erupted among electric vehicle makers amid an economic showdown. The Shanghai plant, Tesla's biggest manufacturing hub globally, planned to cut Model Y output by at least 20% during the March to June period. Lucid Group has said it would reduce its workforce by 6% or around 400 employees as the electric vehicle industry grapples with slower growth. Shares of the EV maker rose around 2% in pre-market trading. It's quiet, too quiet. That ominous four-word combination can be heard in any number of suspenseful scenes throughout the ages, and apparently it's now an apt description for a danger for pedestrians revealed by a new study. The research conducted in London found that electric or hybrid vehicles were twice as likely to hit a pedestrian as gas-powered vehicles. Digging deeper, researchers believe a major reason for this discrepancy is the sound, or in this case, lack of sound, generated by EVs and hybrids. OpenAI's apparent homage to the movie Her, featuring the voice likeness of Scarlett Johansson, is fueling a renewed round of backlash against artificial intelligence across Hollywood. Her accusation that the ChatGPT maker copied her performance in the Spike Jonze-directed feature film after failing to strike an agreement rekindled the creative class's anxiety about the existential threat posed by AI, even as Hollywood studios test new tools and mull alliances with OpenAI. And the CEO, Sam Altman, said in a statement that the voice is not Scarlett Johansson's and it was never intended to resemble hers. We cast the voice actor behind Sky's voice before any outreach to Ms. Johansson. The company, whose largest investor is Microsoft, did not reply to requests for comment on its relationship with Hollywood after this dispute. Citigroup, HSBC Holdings, and Barclays are ordering more staffers to report to company offices 5 days a week. Citi has asked about 600 U.S. employees who were earlier eligible to work remotely to commute to company offices full-time. And the majority of Citi staff can continue their hybrid schedules, though working up to 2 days a week outside the office. Boeing will burn through cash this year, and deliveries of new planes won't improve in the second quarter from the first, as the manufacturer deals with a host of production challenges tied to its best-selling planes. The families of 4 U.S. Marines killed in a 22 crash of an Osprey aircraft are suing Boeing, Bell Textron, and Rolls-Royce, alleging that the companies failed to address known issues with the aircraft that resulted in that crash. Now, the lawsuit was filed yesterday and focuses on an MV-22B Osprey crash in June of 2022, when 5 Marines stationed at the Marine Corps Air Station Camp Pendleton in California were killed while conducting a training mission. With a recent approval rating, their customer approval rating dead last, Spirit Airlines making a change that should garner them some positive goodwill. The airline is the latest to do away with fees for changing of cancelling flights, and the policy change takes effect today and was announced by the company's website, which reads that Cancel fees are cancelled for everyone, and change fees are gone for all. In the spring of 2021, attorneys for the NCAA appearing before the U.S. Supreme Court argued vehemently against providing each college athlete with additional cash annually, the amount $5,980, and 3 years later, in a landmark agreement that will transform the course of major college athletics, the organization left behind its archaic rules, shook off its long-time amateurism argument, and thrust the industry into an era of direct athlete compensation. And the amount, more than $15 billion in new cash, is expected to funnel to athletes over the duration of the 10-year agreement. Former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown earned more than $80 million during his 12-year career, yet the 7-time Pro Bowler has filed for bankruptcy in federal court this week. Last December, unemployment website Indeed released a report on ghosting in hiring, found that 75% of U.S. job seekers and 74% of employers say that ghosting has become entrenched in the hiring process. Also found that 78% of job seekers said they had ghosted an employer prior to 2022. Fish oil supplements, highly regarded for their high omega-3 fatty acid content, have long been associated with heart health benefits. But a recent study that was published has caused controversy by raising the possibility that these supplements may not be as heart healthy as previously thought. The Air Jordan launched a sneaker revolution, and now you'll have the chance to bid on that prototype. Like everything connected to Michael Jordan in his prime, Nike shoes were a phenomenon, and a pair of 1984 prototype Jordans have hit the online auction block. And it is shoes that are black and red with the words Air Jordan in black lettering. The left sneaker is size 13 and the right sneaker is size 13 and a half, made to Jordan's specifications. Prototype samples created by Nike when they were first pursuing Jordan. And the bidding runs through the 9th of June at grayflannelauctions.com. As a shortage of teachers persists in school districts across the U.S., students are getting packed into classrooms. Almost a quarter of their teaching jobs are consistently vacant. Researchers are now suggesting that attention deficit hyperactive disorder may be more common in children than previously thought, as a recent study has found that 1 in 9 have been diagnosed with ADHD. More young people are moving to the Badlands. Suddenly, the remote and inhospitable place is a popular spot to settle down if you're a member of Gen Z. Data from storage facility listing sites show it's North Dakota. The flyover state makes the top 10 list of locations 20-somethings are moving to, thanks to the affordable housing and the low cost of living. Chip maker Micron Technology owes computer memory company Netlist $545 million in damages for violating Netlist's patent rights in memory module technology for high-performance computing, according to a U.S. jury. The city of Dallas and Dallas County say the federal government has confirmed they have effectively ended homelessness among veterans. They say the announcement came from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and Veterans Affairs. Teamsters Local 997 will end its strike against the Molson Coors brewing facility in Fort Worth after union members ratified a new 3-year agreement. And the Molson Coors brewery in Fort Worth supplies the company's products to the western region of the United States. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection really squashed the dreams of one drug smuggler after it intercepted 1,400 packages of methamphetamine inside a shipment of squash. It was seized by custom officers and worth more than $18 million, and found just when officers at the Otay Mesa commercial facility in California stopped a 44-year-old man driving a commercial tractor trailer. Droughts, frosts, and heavy rain are popping up across key growers, threatening tighter supplies and lifting the cost of agriculture staples. Tracking 9 farm commodities turned higher on the year and is headed for the largest weekly gain since July. And while the measure remains far from its 22 peak, the gains could eventually spell higher consumer prices from bread to beverages after a period of subdued inflation in the grocery aisles. Chicago wheat futures today traded near the highest since July, as poor weather in major exporters from Australia to Russia raises concerns over supplies. Arabica coffee prices, another component of the index, are headed for the biggest weekly gain since April. Orange juice is near a record on the back of a sinking weakening Brazilian harvest, and weather woes have also lifted benchmark Asian rice prices to the cusp of a 15-year high. Cocoa futures in New York poised for a weekly gain of almost 10%. Jamtara and Mewat have been upstaged as hotspots of financial cyber fraud in India, with 46% of defrauded money now bring lost to cyber crimes originating in Southeastern Asian countries such as Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos. Nuclear fuel from Russia. According to the head of Rosatom, the Russian State Nuclear Corporation has announced that India will receive next-generation nuclear fuel this summer and emphasize India's role as a key partner in the nuclear field. Visa-free travel group agreement, where the first deputy head of the Office of the Mayor and the government of Moscow anticipates a significant increase in Indian tourist numbers to Moscow, thanks to a new visa-free group travel agreement being negotiated between India and Russia. Vaccine maker Bharat Biotech's founder and executive chairman, Dr. Krishna Ella, has been awarded the prestigious Dean's Medal by the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. The award was presented to Dr. Ella during Bloomberg School's convocation ceremony earlier this week in Baltimore in Maryland for his exceptional leadership, enduring vision, and contribution to improving public health. Jaguar Land Rover, owned by India's Tata Motors, is set to commence the production of its iconic Range Rover and Range Rover Sport models in India. And this marks the first time in the 54-year history of these models that they will be manufactured outside of the UK. Previously, both models were exclusively produced at Jaguar Land Rover's Solihull plant in the UK and exported to around 121 markets worldwide, including India. Crystal Cole, an Indian-American congressional candidate from Virginia, has achieved a significant milestone by raising $1 million for her campaign. She has consistently broken barriers throughout her career, from the CIA to the U.S. Central Command and the Pentagon, driven by a dedication to excellence. Shares of Adani Enterprises Limited, the flagship of the Adani Group, have erased all the losses inflicted by a scathing short seller report. This report had come in early 2023 after the conglomerate cut debt and landed major projects out there. And the stock prices of all Adani Group companies gained in yesterday's strong market, with flagship Adani Enterprise leading with an 8% jump. And the buying came a day after a report in Financial Times alleged that the group has passed off low-grade coal as that of superior quality Adani Group, and refuting that report. BSE Sensex and Nifty 50, the Indian equity benchmark indices, opened in red, but within minutes reversed losses to trade in green. India's private sector activity experienced a significant surge this month, marking the third strongest increase since July of 2010. And the survey also revealed the most substantial rise in employment in nearly 18 years. Hira Mandi actor Richa Chadda, known for her roles in various films, recently shared her investment advice for women. She emphasized the importance of investing, revealing that she started investing in mutual funds around 2015-16 and used part of the proceeds to fund her marriage ceremony. She noted that the days when parents saved small amounts for their daughter's marriage are now gone. The 37-year-old actress urged women to save money regularly, stating that money saved is money earned, and encourage them to invest in mutual funds and open demat accounts. Actress Preeti Zinta, who made heads turn during her jaw-dropping appearance at the 77th Cannes Film Festival, is making a grand comeback with her upcoming film called Lahore 1947. She opened up on her 6-year break from acting and noted that she didn't want to do a film as she was focusing on business and her personal life. The Pakistani government said that the United Arab Emirates committed to investing up to $10 billion in Pakistan during a meeting in the UAE capital between the country's president and the Pakistani Prime Minister. The office of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said that the UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan made the commitment during a meeting in Abu Dhabi with the Prime Minister Sharif, who is visiting the UAE. Pakistan will pay the $2.58 million in compensation to the families of 5 Chinese engineers who were killed in March when a suicide bomber targeted the vehicle carrying them in the northwest. They were attacked in the town of Bisham as they were heading to Dasu Dam, Pakistan's biggest, where they worked. An International Monetary Fund mission in Pakistan have made significant progress towards reaching a staff-level agreement for an extended fund facility. And bulls dominating the trading floor at the Pakistan Stock Exchange as stocks climbed more than 900 points today after the International Monetary Fund said it, and Pakistan made significant progress on this new loan. Amid the request for a 25% increase in annual tariff rebasing, the government in Islamabad hinted at offering an incentive package to the industrial sector as part of other power sector reform interventions to revive electricity demand and support economic growth. Local automakers in Karachi are struggling to attract buyers with price cuts, registration discounts, and auto financing, while the imported used car market has shown strong performances. The Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government will announce its first over 1.6 trillion rupee budget for the next fiscal year today, with a development outlay of over 400 billion rupees. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news for you, but I do have the final segment of our program. We'll make your social calendar and that also, and that's coming up for you. Stay with me right here on Community Radio Networks. This is the final segment of our program today on Friday, the 24th of May. And I have huge thanks going out to Discount Power, to Houston EB5, the Ahluwalia Law Offices, the Wyndham Hotel in Irving, Digital X-Force, Kinzer Law, Michaelachi, Ruchi Palace by Michaelachi, Shri Vimal, Vimal's Venue, and Eggholic on MacArthur Boulevard in Irving, along with Mystic Mandala and Flash Brush Productions. Huge thanks going out to all. The Shruti Sangeet Academy holds Indian classical vocal lessons by certified classical vocalist and talk show host Shanta Mishra. You can explore the soul of Indian music. They offer comprehensive curriculums with personalized instruction and an immersion in bhajan, shlokas, and folk music. Private and group lessons are available on the weekends in East Plano. You can reach out to Shanta Mishra 10@gmail.com or call her at 612-562-4432 if you are interested in learning these music lessons. Also, today, we do have a South Asian Empowerment Award being given by guest of honor Mehwish Hayat at the Dew Event Center on Stemmons Freeway. For more information, you can call Naheed at 214-609-3390, where Rehan Siddiqui and Naheed Rahil are presenting today the South Asian Empowerment Award with guest of honor Mehwish Hayat at 7 o'clock this evening. And then tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, is the Vaisakhi Mela. And that, of course, is happening at the Plano Event Center. And it is going to be a rocking evening there with live in concert Harjeet Harman, Shipra Goyal, and Gulab Sidhu. So please make sure that you are at the Vaisakhi Mela, and it is at the Plano Event Center from 5 to midnight, and that is happening tomorrow, the 25th, Saturday, the 25th. Govinda is coming into town this Sunday, the 26th, being brought to you, and more information available at 360shows.com. We do have the 20th anniversary of the Taste of the Cowboys that is be happening at the Ford Center, the Star in Frisco on Friday, the 7th of June. And on the 8th of June, the South Asian Business Alliance having their event, and the topic is Franchise Expo. South Asian Business Alliance, SABA, bringing all these amazing events to you from 11 to 1 on Saturday, the 8th of June. BAPS Charities are having their walk at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, the 8th of June at 3111 Olympus Boulevard. BAPS Charities hosting their annual In the Joy of Others walk run to extend support to Irving Cares and Metro Care, two invaluable organizations dedicated to serving the community. There's a 2-day festival of life and wellness called the Holistic Festival, happening on the 8th and 9th of June at the Plano Nature and Retreat Center, being organized by Mystic Mandala. And for more information, you can call Vijay at 972-750-1419. You can also register and book a booth at holisticfestivaloflife.com. Hassan Sumro Entertainment is presenting Up Close and Personal in Dallas for a meet and greet with Shahzad Nawaz, and that is happening on Thursday, the 13th of June at the Sheesh Eatery and Lounge at 7:30. Now, you can call Hassan Sumro for more information if you'd like to attend this meet and greet, 972-333-4801. Badshah's Pagal Tour coming to Dallas on the 14th of June, and this is at the Curtis Culwell Center. And that same weekend at the Curtis Culwell Center, Shreya Ghoshal live in concert on the 16th of June. It's A-Cube Media presenting this event at the Curtis Culwell Center, and you have discounted tickets available at sulekha.com or at curtisculwellcenter.com. Kal Ho Na Ho with Shankar Ehsan Loy at the Toyota Music Factory on Saturday, the 29th of June. And on that same evening, Nan's Vision is presenting a glamorous night with Shilpa Shetty on the 29th of June. We do have, of course, the month of June keeping you all busy with the 2020 World Cup 2024 and Roaring to Roar in the month of July, starting from the 5th of July and going on all the way till the end of July, the 28th of July, the 2024 Texas Super Kings schedule, where their season against the LA Knight Riders starts on the 5th of July at 7:30 at the Grand Prairie Stadium. And you need to get your tickets at Major League Cricket 2024 sign up. Also, Rohit Sharma, one of the modern greats of cricket, opening his cricket academy in Dallas-Fort Worth this July. It is Cricket Academy's grand launch on Sunday, the 14th of July, a fancy schmancy meet and greet. And this is being organized by Shalu. You can call her for more information. And Shalu's number is 201-245-6299. It is the hitman coming to Texas for the opening of his cricket academy on the 14th of July. Kingdom Cricket Academy by Rohit Sharma, all set to make its grand debut in Dallas. Carom Grand Masters Tournament is happening from the 19th to the 21st of July, and would like for all of you to know that on the 10th of August is Yade. This is an event which will have singers singing songs of Kishore Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar, and Muhammad Rafi. It is going to be at the Grand Center in Plano on Saturday, the 10th of August. Please do go ahead and mark the 31st of August for this year's Anand Bazaar in celebration of India's Independence Day by the India Association of North Texas. We do have Brahma Kumari's sister Shivani coming to Dallas on the 8th of September, and there will be an event from 2 to 4 at the Allen Credit Union of Texas Event Center, living a life of hope, light, and love. Brahma Kumari's welcoming Sister Shivani, a globally renowned spiritual teacher and motivational speaker. She guides us with ancient wisdom to bring hope and clarity in times of confusion and chaos. The Broadway style of play that all of you saw recently, Mughal-e-Azam, and some of you missed, well, we have season 2 coming to North America from August to October of this year, and we'll get you more details as they are available to us, and that is Mughal-e-Azam. Before I end my show for today, let's get you some quick stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date, which is the 24th of May. It was in 1775 that John Hancock is elected president of the Second Continental Congress. He is best known for his large signature on the Declaration of Independence, which he jested the British could read without spectacles. He was serving as President of Congress upon the Declaration's adoption on the 4th of July in 1776, and as such was the first member of the Congress to sign this historic document. And that is John Hancock, who became President of Congress on the 24th of May, today's date, in the year 1775. In a demonstration witnessed by members of Congress, American inventor Samuel F.B. Morse dispatches a telegraph message from the U.S. Capitol to Alfred Vail at a railroad station in Baltimore, Maryland. The message, "What hath God wrought?" was telegraphed back to the Capitol a moment later by Vail. The question, taken from the Bible, has been suggested to Morse by Annie Ellsworth, the daughter of the Commissioner of Patents. Morse, an accompanied painter, learned of a French inventor's idea of an electric telegraph in the year 1832, and then spent the next 12 years attempting to perfect a working telegraph instrument, and during that time he composed the Morse code, a set of signals that could represent language and telegraph messages, and convinced Congress to finance a Washington to Baltimore telegraph line. And on today's date, the 24th of May in 1844, he inaugurated the world's first commercial telegraph line with a message that was fitting given the invention's future effects on American life. And just a decade after the first line opened, more than 20,000 miles of telegraph cable crisscrossed the country. The rapid communication it enabled greatly aided American expansion, making railroad travel safer, as it provided a boost to business conducted across the great distances of a growing United States. But it was Samuel Morse demonstrating the telegraph with the message, "What hath God wrought?" on today's date in the year 1844. After 14 years, the Brooklyn Bridge over the East River opens in the year 1883 on the 24th of May, connecting the great cities of New York and Brooklyn for the first time in history. Thousands of residents of Brooklyn and Manhattan Island turned out to witness this dedication ceremony, which was presided over by President Chester Arthur and New York Governor Grover Cleveland. Designed by the late John Roebling, the Brooklyn Bridge was the largest suspension bridge ever built to that date. And we, of course, know of the Brooklyn Bridge whenever we visit New York. The Brooklyn Bridge, with its unprecedented length and two stately towers, dubbed the eighth wonder of the world, and the connection it provided between the massive population centers of Brooklyn and Manhattan, changed the course of New York City forever. In 1898, the city of Brooklyn formally merged with New York City, Staten Island, and a few farm towns, forming the greater New York area. But the Brooklyn Bridge opened on today's date in the year 1883. On the 24th of May 1917, driven by the spectacular success of the German U-boat submarines and their attacks on Allied and neutral ships at sea, the British Royal Navy introduced a newly created convoy system, whereby all merchant ships crossing the Atlantic Ocean would travel in groups under the protection of the British Navy. And that was the convoy system introduced by the British Navy on today's date in 1917. And between that date and November of 1918, a total of 1 million American troops were transported across the Atlantic in convoy, and only 637 of them were drowned as a result of German attacks. The Cincinnati Reds beat the Philadelphia Phillies 2-1 on the 24th of May in 1935 in Major League Baseball's first ever night game, played courtesy of recently installed lights at the Crossley Field in Cincinnati. The first ever night game in professional baseball had taken place on the 20th of May in 1930 when a Des Moines, Iowa team hosted Wichita for a Western League game, and the game drew 12,000 people at a time when Des Moines was averaging just 600 fans per game. Evening games soon became popular in the minors, and as minor league ball clubs were routinely folding in the midst of the Great Depression, adaptable owners found the innovation a key to staying in business. And the major leagues, though, took 5 years to catch up to their small town counterparts. And the first big league night came on today's date in the year 1935, drawing 25,000 fans who stood by as President Roosevelt symbolically switched on the lights from Washington, D.C. To capitalize on their new evening fan base, the Reds played a night game that year against every National League team, 8 games in total, and despite their lousy record of 68-85, paid attendance rose 117%. It is Major League Baseball's first ever night game that happened on today's date in the year 1935. And in 1941, on the 24th of May, Germany's largest battleship, the Bismarck, sinks the pride of the British fleet, HMS Hood. The Bismarck was the most modern of Germany's battleships, a prize coveted by other nations' navies, even while still in the blueprint stage. Hitler handed over a copy of its blueprints to Joseph Stalin as a concession during the days of the Hitler-Stalin Neutrality Pact. And the HMS Hood, originally launched in 1918, was Britain's largest battle cruiser, but also capable of achieving the relatively fast speed of 31 knots. And the two met in the North Atlantic, northeast of Iceland, where 2 British cruisers had tracked down the Bismarck. Commanded by Admiral Gunther Lutyens, the commander-in-chief of the German fleet, the Bismarck sunk the Hood, resulting in the death of 1,500 of its crew. Only 3 British survived. And during the engagement, the Bismarck's fuel tank was damaged. He tried to make for the French coast, the captain, but was sighted again only 3 days later. Torpedoed to the point of incapacity, the Bismarck was finally sunk by a ring of British warships, and the Admiral Lutyens, was one of the 2,300 German casualties. The German battleship, the Bismarck, sinks Britain's HMS Hood on today's date in 1941. That was right in the middle of World War II. A referee's call in a soccer match between Peru and Argentina sparks a riot on the 24th of May in the year 1964. More than 300 fans were killed and another 500 were injured in this violent melee that followed at the National Stadium in Lima, in Peru. The match was a qualifier for the 1964 Olympics, and the Peruvian fans were fiercely cheering on their team with only a few minutes left in a close game. And when the referee disallowed an apparent goal for Peru, the stadium went wild. The resulting panic and crowd control measures taken caused stampedes in which people were crushed and killed. The extent of this disaster has only been surpassed once in 1982, when 340 people died at a match in Moscow, when a late goal caused fans who had exited the game to attempt to return suddenly. Meanwhile, police were forcing people to exit. Those caught in the middle were crushed. Large-scale soccer disasters date back to 1946, when 33 fans were crushed to death in Bolton in England, when overcrowded conditions caused a barrier to collapse onto the fans. But it was the riots that erupted at Lima in Peru's soccer match, killing hundreds on today's date in the year 1964. Some stories from the annals of history that happened on the 24th of May. Wishing you all a lovely Friday, signing off from Community Radio Networks. My name is Shabnam Madgil, and you can reach me directly at 214-675-1754.